On today's Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, the OKC Thunder and Indiana Pacers are playing in the NBA Finals Game 7. What's at stake tonight? Who's going to win tonight? And buy or sell NBA off-season drama.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Camille Davis, host of Locked On Bucks, and we're here to talk to you about the last game of the 2025 NBA season, Game 7 between the Thunder and Pacers in the NBA Finals. Camille, best two words in sports, Game 7, buy or sell?
Buying. Game 7s are special, and we haven't had a Game 7 in the finals since 2016. So it's been a while since we got to this point where it all comes down to the last game, a 50-50 shot at who the champion is going to be, and I cannot wait.
When you're looking at this series and the ebbs and flows of it, where the Thunder did beat the Pacers 2 games in a row. That's the first time the Pacers have ever lost 2 games in a row this whole postseason, games 4 and 5. The Thunder still have yet to lose 2 consecutive games in the playoffs. But you've seen some emotional highs and lows for both teams and some coronations for both teams throughout this series. But now it all comes down to Game 7 for all the marbles, as SGA would say. What's your lean in this Game 7 on Sunday?
Well, my initial series prediction was Thunder in 6. So now I'm just going to push that to Thunder in 7. I do believe the Thunder being at home is going to be very, very helpful. We have seen role players tend to play better when they're at home. So I know that OKC fans are banking on that, hoping for that. And that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. But I think it's going to be one of those games where if you're a fan of either of these teams, you have a rooting interest in either of these teams, like you're going to be stressed, I think, throughout the entirety of Game 7. How about you?
Yeah, I think that this game can really go either way, not as a cop-out, not as like a generality, but as a reality for both these two teams because of how the Pacers shoot the ball. And like their ability to get red hot from 3 can never be undersold. And now it's a 1-game sample size. It's a 1-game sample size for everything you've ever dreamed of. And the Thunder have a benefit for being at home, but they also have this uniqueness of, heading into this game that there's going to be some nerves, and that in Game 7, typically guys in Game 7s are not their usual selves because there's nerves, there's weird energy, that you miss some shots that you should make. Well, if streaky/bad shooters are missing shots that they should make, that's typically a recipe for a very cold night from 3, which would hurt the Thunder, who have already shown you an ability to labor in the half court. So I think that everything's on the table. But right now, I as well pick Thunder in 6. I picked the point differential to be within 10 points. Right now it's within 10 points of the point differential. But that's thanks to Rick Carlisle running up the score a little bit in game number 6 to help out the spread. But I do still have to stick with Thunder in 7 because at the end of the day, if both these teams played to their best possible ability on Sunday, the Thunder would have the best unit on the floor in their defense, and they'd have the best player on the floor in SGA. And that should be good enough to win 1 game if all things are equal and both teams are playing great basketball. So I think that you still lean Thunder in 7, but what a run this has been. And you got to see it firsthand, the Pacers run to start this NBA playoffs from the Indiana Pacers. Has it at all changed your viewpoint of Indiana?
Indiana is one of those teams where now I will be completely transparent and say the first round of the playoffs when it was Bucks and Pacers, I was like, okay, I feel good about the Bucks' chances here. I think of all the matchups that the Bucks could have, the Pacers is the one that you want. Clearly, I was foiled. Clearly, I was wrong about that. And as this playoff run has continued and you see the clutch shot making from this Pacers team, you see how they continue to bounce back. You see that the defense that wasn't necessarily like trailblazing during the regular season, but improved from last year. Just how when they are focused and locked in, they're flying around. They can be real chaos agents in Indiana. So like I have the utmost respect for this Pacers team. And as the playoffs have gone on, my respect levels have increased. While my personal feelings of like, dang, I want some get backness from how they did the Bucks 2 years in a row. I just got to give them respect. Like, this run is one for the Bucks. Like, even if the Pacers lose, whether they win or lose tomorrow, I think that this season for the Pacers has been a really special one. And a lot of people weren't even paying attention to the fact that the Pacers had been one of the best teams in the East from January 1st onward. They got off to a really slow start this season, but they started to really click, and it has rolled into the playoffs. And that is a team that can beat you in so many different ways because they share the ball so much. They move the ball so much. They try to tire out their opponents, which I was like, I feel a little bit of the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other with the Thunder and the Pacers of like the things they like to do. The Thunder like to do their weaknesses that share some with the Pacers too. So that's part of why this series has just been so fun for me.
Yeah, it's been a very fun series, very back and forth series. I think that defense was what's jumped out to me the most. What surprised me the most in this series is that they don't do it for 48 minutes for a full 7-game series, but they do it enough, and they do it as often as they can to play just on a string defensively. The athleticism of their back end defense as well, to where they can send two at Shai and still scram switch it on the back end and rotate up and take away the easiest pass, and then force you into a harder decision, force you into turnovers, and force you into stops, has been really impressive from Indiana without even having to rely a ton on zone and being able to save that zone look until game 6, where they did throw more zone at SGA and the Thunder, which had historically given them trouble in this playoff run. Now they still have that in their back pocket of game 7, as well as just a defense that I didn't think was going to be good enough to play OKC straight up, and is good enough to play OKC straight up. So that has been super impressive. And then just their depth has this whole playoff run has mirrored OKC in that way. And that wasn't surprising because we had seen it for the length of the season, the length of the postseason, but it was something that had stood out. I just think that it's hat tip to Indiana for being the only team of this entire playoff run. And look, the Thunder had to play the 3 series, and they had to play Memphis and Denver and Minnesota. But of the 4 teams that they've played, Indiana is the only team that you do not walk into a game and bookmark 20 turnovers for. Have they had high turnover games this series? Sure, but it's not a guarantee. And they've been able to eliminate them, which forces the Thunder to be at their worst, which is in the half court. So I think that is special from Indiana.
Also, Rick Carlisle, like, giving him respect for the job that he has done throughout the postseason, even in this series here against the Thunder. Like, by game 6, I was like, I'm not sure what else Carlisle can throw at the table here that's different from what the Thunder have seen. But then you see, like, okay, hey, we're picking up at half court, or we're picking up at the 3-point line. Like, we're not going to press them full court because we're giving them too much of a runway to create space. And when the Thunder, when those guys, when SGA and J-Dub can get ahead of steam ahead of them, like, they are very, very difficult to stop. So to see that slight adjustment of just like, hey, stop picking up full court, half court at the earliest, but by the 3-point line, and how that pressure condensing the floor on the Thunder just made them have to think. Like, you don't see SGA have 8 turnovers in a game. Like, that is not common. Same with Tyrese Halliburton when he had, I think it was game 5 or 6, game 5 for them, where it was just like, man, the Pacers cannot keep the ball in their hands this game. They just keep turning it over and turning it over. Like, I give a hat tip for sure to Rick Carlisle and that Pacers team, because he has done a phenomenal job of coaching them, getting them ready, and also playing that chess game that you see in the playoffs. But now it's game 7. It's like, how many more chess pieces do you actually have? And at this point, that's when it gets really real, because both of these teams have seen so many different looks from one another. They've gone through the battles. They're getting tired of each other at this point. Like, this is what makes game 7s so interesting. Like, what more else can you do to execute better than your opponent here?
Yeah, that's going to be so fun, because both teams have shown a lot of different looks. They have not been stubborn in any way, to where now in game 7 on Sunday, I have no idea what the pickup point for Shai will be from Indiana. So I can't even imagine what Shai himself is thinking right now, or preparing for right now, because you're going to have to be able to adjust to this on the fly, because they've shown you so many different things. You can't head into the game with a predetermined idea of what to attack. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a young team who hasn't had a ton of experience in this setting. Now, no one on any roster has game 7 experience unless you were involved in that Cavs Warriors Game 7 in 2016. So like the experience, not in the sense of like a Game 7 of the finals, but in the sense of a star player having to diagnose a defense and combat it on the fly. That's an environment that this Thunder team has not been put into a whole lot, and that they're put into on Sunday against the Pacers as heavy favorites with a lot at stake. And the Pacers, for better or worse, for them it doesn't really matter, but they do not know what the Thunder starting lineup will be, because the Thunder have been hokey pokeying this starting five the whole series. And so what are the Thunder going to do? What's at stake for the winner and the loser of this game? We're going to talk about that. We're going to have buy or sell with NBA trades and draft talk after this. But first, I want to say right now, we're good friends over at Car Gurus. Go check out Car Gurus today, because shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. Between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming. That's why I love using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than every other major online marketplace in the U.S. The verified dealers provide real price analysis and give you the tools and data to make sure you're getting the right price without second guessing yourself. This is a great deal with Car Gurus. It makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side, showing you the unbiased deal rating. The best feature, price drop alerts. You know exactly what the perfect car is. It's available for your budget with these price drop alerts whenever it's there for you. Plus, the in-depth vehicle details give you peace of mind before stepping into the lot. It's no wonder why similar web estimate traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your new car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Get to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's Car Gurus, CARGURUS.com. Cargurus.com to buy or sell your car today with cargurus.com. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Camille Davis, host of Locked On Bucks. And we're here talking more about the Game 7 of the NBA Finals, because there's a lot at stake for these two teams. You mentioned that, that 2 years in a row with Indiana that they've been a thorn in the Bucks' side a little bit. And you look at the Pacers' runs here quickly. They've put together two of the best year stretches of their franchise's history, of Eastern Conference Finals appearance last year, and they lost to an all-time great team. No shame in that. And then NBA Finals appearance, going to Game 7, closer now than they've ever been to an NBA championship. And then next season, is it fair to say that the expectation level should be in Indiana, that they get back to this stage? I know we haven't had a repeat champion in quite some time in the NBA since those Warriors run. But when you look at the East, I mean, the Pacers retain all their guys. There's question marks in Milwaukee. There's question marks in Boston after the injury to Tatum. It was already the lackluster conference. Do you expect the Pacers to be in the Eastern Conference Finals minimum next year?
Ooh, Eastern Conference Finals minimum for the Pacers. I'll say this. I think the Pacers should go into next season being the favorites in the East. But I do think that the conference is wide open. And I think other teams sense that as well. That's why you see in Orlando being like, hey, we're going to trade these 4 first-round picks here for Desmond Bane, because we see a conference that's open and we think that he can be a missing piece to push us over the top. So I don't think I would pencil the Pacers into the Eastern Conference Finals. I do think they're favorites, but when you look at what other teams are doing, and we haven't even gotten to free agency yet, which we're expecting to be one of those ones where it's a lot of movement, some crazy things happening, starting with the draft. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. But ultimately, the Pacers should be favored, but you can't look at what the Knicks did. If they can find a head coach that isn't already someone's head coach to coach this team going forward, if the Bucks retain Giannis, which it's seeming like they do, how can they retool around him? Philly, can you get a healthy year out of Philly? You have Detroit that's on the up and up right now with Ivy coming back from injury this year, plus what they've already been able to build. We mentioned Orlando. Like, there are a lot of teams in the East that are going to look at this conference and be like, we got a shot here.
Yeah, there's plenty of reasons to believe if you're in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk more about that Eastern Conference coming up. But I do think that for the Pacers, it's at stake because the future isn't as roses and merry as the Thunder's has been viewed, rightfully or wrongfully. But you are this close, and you do have this great opportunity to have it all line up for you, where you went on this magical postseason ride You've had so many Cinderella moments, and you have Pascal Siakam, who's an NBA champion, ready to become a 2-time NBA champion. TJ's playing out of his mind, and so you have the storybook nature on your side, and of course, both teams should want to win this game. It feels like the Pacers can play a little bit freer in Game 7 because there's obviously going to be disappointment internally for whoever loses this Game 7, but externally, nobody would really consider this a failure or anything but, man, way to battle to the Pacers if they were to lose. Versus on the Thunder side, I mean, it's clearly going to be viewed, rightfully or wrongfully, on the outside looking in as a failure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you come into a series and you're the favorite after a dominant season, when you led the NBA in wins, when you had historic defenses, you have the MVP, everything was lining up for you. Yeah, I think it will be a disappointment or be seen as a disappointment if the Thunder do not win the NBA Finals this year, especially when they stole Game 4, which was a game where I was like, I don't know how the Thunder are doing this until they got to that fourth quarter and SGH kind of woke up and said, you know what? I am him. Let me show y'all something real quick. And the defense buckling down there, and they get out of Indy in a win where they only made, 3 threes in that game against Indy there. So like when you still won like that, you have everything set up in Game 5 where it's like, hey, Game 6, you take care of business. You're going to be the champs. And the Pacers come out and smack you in the mouth to the Thunder. Like, if you now it's all set up, Game 7 at home in OKC. If the Thunder do not win, it will be seen as just a great upset, a big disappointment. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, they're a young team, they'll be back. We said the same thing about the Thunder the last time they made it to the finals of like, they have everything set up for them. They should be back. In this league of parity now, who knows? So like when you have an opportunity, you really, really need to try to grasp it.
Yeah, I mean, especially because like you said, Game 6 was the most immature game this Thunder team's ever played. Like the reason why they're at this stage right now in the NBA Finals is because you've gotten guys like J-Dub, who's in his 3rd season, like Chet, who's playing his NBA season 1.5 because he broke his hip and he had a Liz Frank fracture. In terms of like actual games played, he's at 1.5. Cason Wallace, who's in his 2nd year. Like you've been able to get all these guys together on this exceptionally young roster to be in the NBA championship because they're so uncommonly mature for their age. But Game 6 was their biggest blip on that mature radar because they just did not show up to a game that they could have won a championship. So to me, like if they lose on Sunday, you're not looking back at Game 1 that Halliburton stole because you stole Game 4. Like, so like, if you want to play that game, yeah, the Pacers should have had Game 4. A Game 1, you should have had Game 4. So like all things being equal, otherwise, Game 6 is the one that you just say, well, if we would have just a little bit more mature, if we understood the moment a little bit more and just actually competed, because that's the thing, they didn't even compete in Game 6 for a championship. Like that's where they're going to be kicking themselves, and that's where the Thunder could feel that more pressure of this would be one of the biggest NBA upsets ever. And I know that this is a series that's not been covered properly except for on this network, really. And I mean that earnestly because you look at the other networks and there's literally not even talking about it hardly. But from a Vegas perspective, especially, this is the biggest upset in the NBA's history when the Pacers win on Sunday, if they win on Sunday. And Rick Carlisle would be a 2-ring coach, both rings being improbable. Now, I just don't think that the Vegas odds were so heavily in the Heat's favor as they were in the Thunder's favor, but the public perception, the court of public perception was in heavy favor of the Miami Heat in those Heatles whenever Dirk and them boys got it done in 2011 with Rick Carlisle. So like Rick Carlisle has 2 of the best championships you can have. And again, he does it without the seen best player in the series. Obviously 2011 Dirk, at the end of it, you look back and say, yeah, he was the best player of the playoffs. But in the moment, like, you did not think that he was better than LeBron or prime LeBron or D Wade. I thought he was better than D Wade personally, but I'm biased because I love Dirk. But nonetheless, like that's a huge story for this game. There's a lot at stake because if Shai could go from a season in which that he has either after 48 minutes Sunday, either Shai has MVP, West Finals MVP, NBA Finals MVP, scoring champ, 3-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Star at age 26. Or he has all those things except for not a champion, not a Finals MVP, and instead You're the face of the worst upset, Vegas speaking, odds speaking, in NBA history.
Yeah.
That's huge for your legacy.
Yeah, it's the narrative part that comes in with it. And it makes me think back, like the last time we had a game 7 was that Warriors Cavs series where it was the Warriors team that won 73 games. It was the Warriors team that was dominating, that you expected to win. And then here comes these Cavaliers with LeBron and Kyrie pulling off the upset where you're just like, how did we get to this point where there is a game 7 to begin with? And now we're looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers as champion when there was a team that they were playing against that lost less than 10 games in the regular season. And while the Thunder did not win 73 games, 68, like that's pretty close. Like there's a lot of parallels in the sense of like what team you have favored, how the series, like just how it's playing out, but a little bit more back and forth with the Thunder and the Pacers than what we saw initially with the Warriors and the Cavaliers 9 years ago. But again, setting the stage for a big game 7.
Yeah, LeBron's not walking through that door for Indiana, but I will say there are more parallels too of the Warriors. Historically great regular season, but looked beatable at times in that playoffs where the Thunder had them on the ropes, 3-1,
yeah.
and they blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors and had to go to 7. The Thunder have looked beatable at times this playoffs. Yes, they've swept Memphis and they went to 5 against Minnesota, but Game 7 against Denver and a hurt Nuggets squad was a make or break deal, of course, with a Game 7 at home. So that they looked beatable at times there. They looked beatable this series. And now it all comes to a head. Warriors are at home in Game 7. Thunder at home in this Game 7. The home teams, the home teams in the last 2 finals Game 7s, 0-1 so far. Will it be 0-2 after tonight? We'll see. But the big thing that plays in Indiana's favor before we move on to buy or sell, historically, 6.9 points is the margin of victory in a Game 7 NBA Finals. Clutch time, everything leads to Indiana winning that clutch time game. So we're going to see. We're going to make our predictions and play a game of buy or sell, including about Ace Bailey and his NBA draft drama, Kevin Durant and the trade saga that continues, and your Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to put you on the hot seat for them as well. But first, I want to say right now, we're good friends over at Wayfair. Go check out Wayfair today because there's nothing like stepping out into your outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped to your own personal oasis. If you want to update your patio this season, Wayfair has made it easy to turn into a special place of yours outside of your door with comfort, style, making you ready for the summer. Wayfair has everything that you need to level up your outdoor space. They have conversation sets, they have outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set the vibe so you can play some yacht rock with your string lights around your fire pit, giving your backyard the restore and awesome feel that you want at a restore price tag with Wayfair. You can make sure that you go check them out today because I recently got some patio chairs for the old pad, and it's great to be able to sit out there and listen to Locked On Podcast Network pods and just take it all in. So the delivery was free, fast, hassle-free with even larger items at Wayfair. So make sure that you get there so that whether you're hosting friends or unwinding with a book or listening to a podcast outside, it can genuinely feel like your own private retreat with their outdoor space to make it your dream oasis with Wayfair today. To enjoy it all summer long, head to wayfair.com right now to stop and shop for a huge outdoor selection. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Camille Davis, host of Locked On Bucks. Make your second listen the Locked On Pacers podcast. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm interested to see how Tony reacts to either scenario. I don't know what the Pacers, I know what the Thunder's temperament will be if they win or lose. I have no idea what the Pacers' temperament will be, win or lose, in Game 7 on Sunday. So go check out Locked On Pacers. But Camille Davis also need to check out Locked On Bucks because you're going to have a very fun offseason, and the offseason officially starts. I really think that there might be, I'm just speculating because of what Shams has teased a little bit. I really think that there might be a floodgate opening on Monday. I think that maybe Adam Silver is asking the league partners, and the ESPN doesn't necessarily decline because it's also their TV product, of hey guys, could we just wait till after Game 7 to trade Kevin Durant? I know that you guys are all excited that it's going to happen before the draft, and we're running out of days before the draft. But could we just wait a little bit until the finals is over? So I do wonder if the game 7 ends and just boom, like Kevin Durant's traded, everything's upside down, and you kind of move on because the basketball world, it never stops. But let's play a game of buy or sell.
All right.
Let's start with our predictions for game 7 by playing this game buy or sell. Game 7 will be the biggest upset ever.
I'm a sell on that one because I do think the Thunder find a way to pull this one out. This could be famous last words, but I do think the Thunder win. So I'm going to sell on this being the biggest upset of all time. I think it's going to be a gutsy performance. One of those games where everyone's tweeting about it on Blue Sky, whatever the social media is, just talking about the game threads. And then afterwards, everybody's going to be like, man, what a great series. But ultimately, I think the Thunder win.
Yeah, I think the Thunder win too. I'm going to sell it from a standpoint of like, because of how like the conversation around this series has been, I don't think that even if the Pacers win, it would be considered the biggest upset ever. Because like, even though speaking from a Vegas standpoint, and like what we literally consider the odds, it is the biggest upset ever because the Dallas and Miami upset was like a closer spread, a closer kind of a money line on the series odds. I think that our consciousness, like our ability to understand what's happening in front of us, we as an NBA society will always view that as like the biggest upset if you're a certain age. So I don't think that it's going to make it that far in because there's no like evil empire. Like even though the Thunder are really good and they had a historic season, there's not many people who just outright hate them. They might hate Shai because they're like, oh, he's a flop or whatever. They don't like hate the Thunder the way that they hated the Heatles, and like to see JJ Barea and them boys like come in there and win that finals will just always be a memory for everybody in the NBA. So I don't think that it'll be viewed as the biggest upset. However, it will be the one when you're trying to describe upsets in the NBA and people are telling you to give examples, you'll throw it in. You'll be like, yeah, you had Dirk against the Heat. You had the Warriors, the We Believe Warriors against the Mavericks. You had the Pacers against the Thunder. Like you'll throw it in the list of upsets, though, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess by that definition, it'd be one of the bigger upsets in NBA
history.
You
can throw it in there with one. My mind always goes to when Detroit beat the Lakers, and I was just like, "What happened? How did the Lakers lose this?" But yeah, I think it would be in the conversation with those types of finals for sure.
Yeah, that would be just a upset of all upsets for the Pacers to pull it off. I think that the Thunder win because we both picked Thunder in 6, and since I went to the point differential thing, I'm right on one half of it. So if I get it within a game, I think that's pretty good for the predictions of a sport that's hard to predict. But buy or sell, Ace Bailey, he's not working out for teams ahead of the draft. We can't pin him down on if he is or isn't, or what he's canceled, what he hasn't canceled. Is this a bad move?
I'm going to sell on being a bad move because I understand what his camp is trying to do, I think. Based on what I've been able to gather from Rafael Barlow, shout out to Locked On NBA Big Board and the Substack with all the information there that he's been putting out. It just seems like his agent and his team is really posturing for him to get to a situation where he's going to have an opportunity to have the ball in his hands a lot more, to be able to learn through mistakes, learn through playing in the NBA. A team like the Nets, for example, would be a spot where it's like, that's where he's trying to maneuver his way to go. Like it might end up being Philly after all, regardless of him canceling the workouts. But the role that he'll have in Philly is just going to be vastly different than if he went to a Washington Wizards or a Brooklyn Nets. So I can get why his team is posturing to get there. We'll just have to see if it's actually successful or not.
Yeah, I'm going to sell this as well because it just doesn't seem like it's much to do about anything. It does put a target on your back, if you will, because like whatever team ends up selecting Ace Bailey, their fans will obviously have followed the saga of like what he did pre-draft, and if he's not good, then it'll be thrown in his face over and over again. If he is good, it'll be forgotten about entirely. And he did put himself in a position to where like you gave somebody ammo. But his camp has already thought of that. His camp already knows that, and they don't care. They shouldn't care because it's really irrelevant. In understanding the process of these pre-draft workouts, to me, they're accomplishing the goal because of the reporting from Raphael, the reporting from others, of just when you ask NBA executives, they all have a synopsis on who Ace Bailey is as a person. That's all these workouts really accomplish. Like you don't really just wow someone in a workout, no matter what the Disney storybook reporting is on some of this stuff. You don't really wow someone in a workout where they take you in the top 5, right? You could get a second round pick that pops out at you with a workout and an interview and getting to know somebody, but an actual workout like with players of Ace Bailey's ilk, like you have a lot of information on them already. And so when you hear that like front offices understand he's not a bad guy, he's just kind of a normal, goofy 19-year-old. But 19-year-olds are typically goofy. I don't think that it really is hurting him in any significant way. And if at all, there's a reason why these agents are paid a lot of money. It's to get him where he wants to go and where he's most comfortable. And that's what he should do ahead of starting his NBA career, because we've seen many of players who had the talent, who even had the work ethic, but they got drafted in a weird situation. They had a weird front office. They had a really weird coach. They had a weird roster around them, and it kind of derailed their whole careers. So this is a very important stage if you are a prospect, and if you do have the power like Ace Bailey does to try to make it happen. Okay, sure, why not? But buy or sell, Kevin Durant gets traded by the start of the NBA draft on Wednesday.
I'm buying a lot of that. I think it happens way before the draft for sure. Your point about is Adam Silver going like, guys, please just at least wait until the finals are done. Would not surprise me if that's actually part of the calculus of like, let's keep the focus on the game for the last game of the entire 2024-25 regular season. Let's keep it on basketball. But I do think that Durant gets moved before the draft because it's kind of like the first domino that needs to fall for this NBA offseason for so many other moves.
So I phrased it in a way where I thought we could zag. I'm going to sell it because I said the start of the draft. So once Cooper Flagg gets selected, I get everything after Cooper Flagg's selection. I feel pretty good about those odds that he might get. I think that we could get it as soon as like tomorrow night after the champagne's popped in OKC in one locker room or the other. But you know what? When you're trying to play the odds, anything after the Cooper Flagg pick, it could be on the table there. Maybe literally for Kevin Durant with the Spurs and Suns trade negotiations. I don't think that they're going to give up the number 2 pick for him. But should teams be desperate to get KD?
Desperate? No. I think KD is still a really good player for his age, especially for his age. You don't normally see guys at that age still contributing the way that KD does. But he is a player that's productive. And if you're a team that thinks that you're close, he can be a piece to put you over the top. So, like, not desperate for him, but, like, if you can make an offer that doesn't have you mortgage your entire future to get him, absolutely go for it.
Buy or sell, the Bucks are going to trade Giannis.
Sell. Giannis is not going anywhere. Giannis is not leaving Milwaukee this offseason. All signs point to Giannis being in on what the Bucks are trying to build this year, especially with the offense reportedly going to be more Giannis-centric, like you saw when Dame was out with the blood clots, where he's initiating the offense. He has the cookie jar in his hand, and he decides when everyone else gets some cookies on this team. So, yeah, I'm selling. I think Giannis is in Milwaukee to start the season. But I think next offseason, the conversations will ramp right on up again because that's the way it tends to go with superstars, especially when they're like Giannis.
I just feel like you could say the conversation is going to ramp up as soon as possible. And because it always happens to Milwaukee and Giannis. We do this every year. Every year it's like, okay, it's over. It's over. Giannis is gone. It's over. Oh, never mind. It's not over. Okay, we're back. Every year we play this it's over, we're back game with Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the Bucks and Giannis himself just keep telling you, no, it's not over. Nothing to see here. And we're just like, oh, yes, it is. Yes, I'm going to tell you how it is. Yes, it is over. It's like, guys, can we just maybe understand that perhaps there's a slight chance that one of the best players in the world is content in a small market and a small market franchise? Like perhaps he's okay here in Milwaukee and they've won a championship and they are facing a wide open East. And I know that it looks bleak. I know that like there's not 1,000,000,001 ways that Milwaukee can get better, but there are some ways that they can get better. And if they just get a little bit better on the margins with Giannis, who's one of the best players in the world, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and this is the first step. Like this coming season, I don't expect the Bucks to be championship favorites, but if they can start building this roster younger, faster around Giannis and the offense where he is initiating, like it's a good step for next offseason when you're able to add more and you have more assets available as well.
Go follow Camille Davis on social media at Camille_Monet, just Monet, no underscore, and Locked On Bucks, wherever you get your podcast from. Check it out on Locked On Thunder as well at Rylan_Stiles on social media. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.